Hello and welcome back to the Harmonious Psychology Solutions series on menopause. In this second episode, we're going to be talking about hormones and how they change during menopause. We believe this is really important because when we understand the interactions between different hormones, we can learn how they affect our different symptoms. Before we get started on that, let's talk about what a hormone actually is. Hormones are chemicals which are produced by glands in the body and secreted into the blood. Their function is to control how cells and organs work. Different hormones work on different cells and organs in the body. We all have hormones all the time, even before puberty and after menopause. The first hormone I want to talk about is estrogen. Estrogen is mostly produced in the ovaries, but its concentrations in the blood vary depending on what point in the menstrual cycle you are at. Estrogen rises throughout the cycle as the womb lining builds up. During this time, it causes eggs to mature inside the ovaries, and when it peaks, an egg is released. Another important hormone in the female body is progesterone, which also is produced in the ovaries. Progesterone is the hormone that causes the lining of the womb to build up throughout the cycle, making it thicken, so that if an egg is implanted, there are plenty of nutrients for it to survive. Progesterone starts to increase in the body just after the period ends, and peaks about halfway through the womb lining's buildup. Two less well-known hormones are follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. These two hormones are usually talked about together as they are considered a pair due to the fact that they both come from the pituitary gland and work together in their functions. The concentrations of these hormones starts to increase as the womb lining thickens and peaks just before ovulation, when the egg is released from the ovaries. Follicle-stimulating hormone, also known as FSH, causes the follicles in the ovaries to mature, which stimulates estrogen production. Luteinizing hormone, also known as LH, causes the ovaries to mature and produce estrogen and progesterone. In this way, FSH and LH control the production of estrogen and progesterone in the body. But what does this actually mean for the body? So before puberty, we don't have this menstrual cycle, so the hormones aren't released in the same way and can fluctuate quite a lot during puberty. But after puberty, once we have a regular menstrual cycle, although the hormones fluctuate during the menstrual cycle, this is only a very small fluctuation and the hormones are actually quite stable over time. So between puberty and perimenopause, we have fairly stable hormones which are all doing their job correctly. As you can see from the diagram, progesterone is at the top, and this is because before menopause and after puberty, progesterone is at the highest concentration in the body of all the menstrual hormones. This is followed by estrogen, which is the second most common, and FSH and LH have the lowest concentration of these hormones in the blood. So let's take a look at what happens to these hormones when menopause starts during perimenopause. The estrogen starts to decrease and the progesterone begins to fluctuate in an effort to balance out the effects of the decreased estrogen. So at this point, progesterone is very high and very low and then very high again, because it's trying to balance out the problems that the estrogen deficits are causing. In an attempt to increase the estrogen, FSH and LH increase in the blood, and then due to their increase, the ovaries actually become less responsive to them because the levels are just too high. This means that the ovaries produce less progesterone and the progesterone crashes and becomes the hormone at the lowest concentration in the blood, causing estrogen dominance, where the estrogen is higher than the progesterone. And the diagram from the previous slide is flipped on its head. Luckily, though, these fluctuations don't last forever, as when perimenopause eventually becomes menopause and then post-menopause, though the hormones do continue to decrease for some time after this, they do become stable again, although their levels are much lower than they were before the process of menopause started. Here are some useful references if you would like to learn more about the different hormones and how they change during menopause and puberty. We always recommend that you also do your own research on top of listening to others' opinions, as this series is for educational purposes only and is not a medical opinion. We really hope you enjoyed this episode, and we really hope you will join us in the next episode, where we will talk about how these hormonal changes can affect your sleep cycle and your energy levels. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.